Hey there folks, this is Pop Culture, I'm Alex Pop, and this is part 2 of my spoiler talk for Jurassic World Dominion. In part 1, I covered what was the biggest reason for my dissatisfaction with this movie, the fact that the dinosaurs now inhabiting the planet are not what the human characters are dealing with. Now, one thing that some defenders have pointed out is that there's more to these movies than just dinosaurs. They're also about the themes of science and tinkering with nature. And yes, that's true, they're not just about dinosaurs. However, they are about dinosaurs, and there is a gaping void if they aren't central to the story. The original Jurassic Park revolved around a man's dream to show the world an unimaginable reality, and the creation of dinosaurs is what he came up with to fulfill that dream. The Lost World was about how the dinosaurs survived after the discovery that the lysine contingency failed. Jurassic Park 3 was about the existence of dinosaurs becoming public knowledge and how that affects the main character. Jurassic World, the park is now open due to the widespread global interest in seeing the dinosaurs for oneself. Fallen Kingdom centered around an intriguing moral dilemma of whether or not the dinosaurs are entitled to the rights of naturally born animals. And now we get to Dominion, in which the plot is infiltrating a corporation that is trying to dominate the world's food supply through the use of giant mutant bugs. And this just so happens to take place in a world that is now being occupied by dinosaurs. Do you see which one is not like the others? Still, we do see a lot of dinosaurs in this movie, 32 different species if I counted correctly. And hey, dinosaurs are cool, so there's gotta be some entertainment value. And well, I could have gone without the huge exposition dump at the beginning, half of which was just telling us stuff that we already know from the ending of Fallen Kingdom. But Owen's cattle drive with the Parasaurolophus was super exciting. Apparently that was an image that Colin Trevorrow had in his head for a long time. And then there was when Macy goes into town, looks up in awe at the small Apatosaurus herd, and then she recommends to the construction workers how they can help guide the Apatosaurs out of the area. That was also a nice scene. I liked seeing Blue training her offspring to hunt, and, for these first 15 minutes or so, I'm thinking, by all accounts, this is going to be a great addition to the series. It was when the plot kicked into motion that it started to creep into my mind that something was feeling off. Ellie Sattler and Alan Grant's mission is to go to Biosyn headquarters to stop a worldwide famine from happening because of the mutant locust. And despite how joyed I was to see these two back into the picture, I still thought to myself, this can't really be the major threat of the movie, right? But yes, it is. And from here on out, every encounter with dinosaurs is just incidental. And once or twice, they just have to give us a quick reminder that, oh yeah, this is literal Jurassic World now, so here's some cell phone footage of someone on the beach getting harassed by Dimorphodons, or, a shot of a Quetzalcoatlus nesting at the top of the Freedom Tower. Though truth be told, I could watch a short film or TV episode about someone going to work in the World Trade Center with the fear of the Quetzalcoatlus living above them, almost kind of an inverse Ghost in the Basement story. But when you get down to it, none of the dinosaurs have any relevance to the story with the exception of Beta, and even then, her purpose, like just about everything in this movie, is to defeat the locusts. And also, as I mentioned in my spoiler-free review, there were a few shots of Beta that looked kinda wonky. The close-ups of her animatronic looked great, but it was a few CGI shots of her hopping around when Macy first sees her that didn't look right. Same goes for the scene where Grant and Sattler pass through the Department of Prehistoric Wildlife. How did the CGI stegosaurs in the background end up looking rather flat, despite the movements of the animatronic Nasutoceratops hatchling looking so authentic? Maybe it's that there are so many practical effects in this movie that the CGI stands out more, I don't know. But with a whole extra year to work on the CGI due to the pandemic, I don't see why they couldn't have perfected every detail on every creature. The most inventive parts of this movie are what goes down in Malta, as Claire and Owen's search for the Biosyn poachers takes them to this underground dinosaur black market. It's a really cool set, filled with terrific-looking animatronics, the Stygimoloch, Microceratus, and Dimorphodon in particular. There's even a neat detail that emphasizes the animal cruelty, with this prosthetic arm on a juvenile baryonyx that's still being put into a fighting ring. It even looks like they're cooking dinosaur meat in there. I'd spit out Sarah, 'cause she's too tough. And it was pretty savage when Rain Delacourt has a juvenile Carnotaurus chewing on one of his arms and a Lystrosaurus gnawing on the other, and that's what's holding him down as Owen interrogates him. Little over the top maybe, but still pretty awesome. Although there was one part shown in the second trailer and the TV spots that had me raising an eyebrow, and seeing the full uncut scene didn't help anything. It's when Rain Delacourt releases the Carnotaurus and Allosaurus, and Owen holds them off by raising his hands just as he does with the raptors. At first I thought maybe him doing that is just kind of involuntary like force of habit, but it works. It's like 8 seconds before he drops his hands, and only then does the Allosaurus begin snapping at him. So what, that technique just works on every dinosaur now and not just the raptors that he had been training since they're birds? The most purely entertaining sequence is the laser-focused Atrociraptors giving chase after Claire and Owen. The sound mixing, the sharp camera work following Owen and the Atrociraptors as they stumble over obstacles, all leading to that plane escape with Owen leaping off the motorcycle which then knocks the raptor out of the plane, it was all a good jolt. You can tell that the idea is that as the movie goes to different parts of the world, they're testing out what different film genres but with dinosaurs in them would look like. The Malta sequence was clearly meant to feel like an exotic spy thriller. I mean, Soyona Santos, Deechin Lackman's character, was a total Bond villain. And early in the movie, when Rain Delacourt is watching Owen on horseback, those scenes were something straight out of a Western. Even my sister remarked to me in the theater just how much it felt like a Western. So after a decent sequence with the Quetzalcoatlus taking down Kayla's plane, the heroes face off against some of Biosyn's feathered dinosaurs, something that a lot of fans have been waiting a long time to see. But what actually did impress me is that the inclusion of feathered dinosaurs is not just due to the popular fan demand. There is an in-universe reason for Biosyn to make them this way. They've put the effort into finding the way to purify their genomes so that they can recreate their immune systems to a T for their pharmaceutical research. One of the movie's best set pieces is Claire's escape from the Therizinosaurus in the jungle. This dinosaur is apparently blind, so from that we know that we are to call it Do You Thinkysaurus. I guess this is Colin Trevorrow seeing A Quiet Place or Don't Breathe and thinking, we gotta do that with a dinosaur. And it works. It's a great scene of tension and slow burn suspense as Claire evades the creature's detection by crawling into the water, and thus reprising the role of Lady in the Water. And when Owen and Kayla find themselves in the icy territory of the Pyroraptor, it was pretty cool and creepy to see it swim through the water like a penguin. If you're going to introduce yet another raptor into the series, I certainly welcome one that has a unique attack strategy. And just as I always wanted, Dilophosaurus returns in this movie, and the dinosaur gets 2 solid moments. One when it threatens Claire, Owen shows up and grabs it by the throat, Kayla tases it and its venom just gurgles out. And I can take some pride in that I predicted that Dilophosaurus would kill Dodgson. I do like the irony of him going out the same way as the guy he first sent to begin the chaos. Honestly though, this would be a great bookend if I felt that the movie was more worthy of it. That's the thing about the callbacks, like the location title cards that have the same font as those in the Park trilogy, and as word has it, the 2 other Tyrannosaurs that Roberta joins with at the very end are the Buck and Doe Rexes from the Lost World. I'd be able to appreciate those little member berries a lot more if they were in a stronger movie. And as well done as the scene with Claire evading the Therizinosaurus was, that was the last of the tension for me. As the movie goes on, I really wasn't feeling the stakes. The reason is because we eventually get 8 protagonists, 9 including Dr. Wu, and yet not only do none of them die, but they all get off with literally only a few scratches. The most amount of physical damage that any of the heroes take is when Blue claws Owen across the palm of his hand. That's it. In Fallen Kingdom, Claire at least got a real deep gash in her thigh from the Indoraptor claw. That part was moderately shocking. But in Dominion, no one sustains any injuries equal to as much as even that. When this is meant to be the concluding chapter in the Jurassic story, you have to show us just how high the stakes are by making us feel like these characters are in legitimate peril. I want to fear for their lives. I want to have an inkling that 1 or 2 of them might not make it to the end credits. And I definitely can't get that feeling when the Giganotosaurus spends half its time just staring at the heroes. The only times when it tries to attack is when there's something in its way. like when it wraps its jaws around that cage as Macy is climbing up the ladder inside. But when they're all at the top and the Giga has them backed against the wall, it just stands there sniffing them. At least in Fallen Kingdom, there was a reason why the Indoraptor didn't always immediately go in for the kill. It's a sadist that enjoys tormenting its helpless prey. It would certainly work if Alan Grant gave some insight on the Giganotosaurus's behavior, but as is, it's not very threatening. Come on, Trevorrow, you told us this dinosaur was going to be like the Joker, in that, quote, it just wants to watch the world burn. Okay, in all seriousness, I'm convinced that Trevorrow just said this for the memes. How about another joke, Dodson? What do you get when you cross an aggressive living thing with a century he has no idea he's in that treats him like trash? I'll just stand here and give you a moment to think about it. And because we just gotta have a final dinosaur battle, we get it when the dinosaurs are led away from the fire and toward the facility via these brain implants that Biosyn sends a signal to. I don't know if there's any linkage between that and those stupid mind control devices in Camp Cretaceous. Some think there is, but I don't know. There seems to be quite a wide line between brain implants which receive a signal that draws the dinosaur into certain places, and those chips that somehow connect to the entire nervous system, allowing you to control the dinosaurs like a video game character. Season 5 is going to be so bad. Anyway, so as the heroes are making their escape, a battle between the T-Rex and Giganotosaurus breaks out. As Roberta enters the scene, we get kind of a cool recreation of the Jurassic Park logo with the T-Rex walking behind the circular fountain. But still, this has to be one of the most underwhelming climaxes since Fant4stic. For one thing, in Jurassic World, when the T-Rex was brought in to fight the Indominus Rex, it was a huge deal because it's what the whole movie was building to. This product of excessive consumerism getting taken out by the thing that was already great to begin with. And it doubled as a much-needed spit in the face to Jurassic Park 3 killing off and replacing the T-Rex. In Dominion, the T-Rex and Giganotosaurus fight doesn't have nearly the same effect. Yes, it completes the small subplot that started in the prologue involving the eons-long rivalry between the two apex predators, but it still feels like just another dinosaur scene that has little to no bearing on the plot. It's also disappointing that this wasn't a one-on-one battle. It seems that the goal was to just one-up Jurassic World's battle, so instead of a velociraptor helping out Roberta, it's the Therizinosaurus this time. Now the thing is, during Roberta's fight with the Indominus Rex, it did make sense for her to get a little help from Blue, because the I-Rex was essentially designed to outdo the T-Rex in size, aggression, and agility. In Dominion, she's just going up against a carnivore that's slightly bigger. This was the chance to prove once and for all that she's the king of the Neo-Jurassic Age. But nope, the Giganotosaurus knocks her out, then turns toward the heroes, so Kayla shoots a flare to draw its attention over to the Therizinosaurus. As they take off, the light from the helicopter puts the light back into the T-Rex's eyes. She gets up, and in just one single charge, she shoves the Giga into the Therizinosaurus' claws. This really did not give Roberta the justice she deserves. Now, Colin Trevorrow did address this, saying that the T-Rex would need help, since the average lifespan of Tyrannosaurus is 28 years, putting Roberta near the end of her natural life. I would be able to get behind that, except I seem to remember this conversation.
The T-Rex would be dead by now, right?
No, it's impossible to know the max lifespan of a clone in a completely different environment. Take a caveman that would have lived 20 years. Feed him prime meals, give him health care, he's gonna live 5 times as long.
So she'd be dead by now, right?
You know, as much as I praise the marketing for this movie, it wasn't very bright to include Beta being returned to Blue in the trailer. Sometimes you can show an ending shot in the trailer without letting the audience know that it's the end, but when we learned that Biosyn was taking Beta away from Blue, I, like anybody else, was able to put together that that was the ending. I will give credit to that scene, though. It was the right way to finish off Owen and Blue's dynamic over the course of this trilogy. At the end of Jurassic World, Owen is the one with Dominion, giving a stern headshake at Blue for getting out of line, and then he leaves her on the island. At the end of Fallen Kingdom, Blue takes the control from Owen, rejecting any more life contained, and leaving him to go live free in the world. At the end of Dominion, there's a balance. After he returns Beta to her, Owen and Blue give each other a look of approval as they both willingly part ways. So, I will give the movie that. If there was one story thread that it did feel like a proper conclusion to, it would be Owen and Blue's story. It does go with the overarching story's resolution of coexistence, which was about the resolution I was expecting, making the point of how two vastly different forces can actually be complementary to each other. You may have even noticed that Macy's jacket has the yin-yang symbol. My issue is that the way the story arrives at that resolution is just so shallow and underwhelming. We're meant to be left with the idea that man and dinosaurs can coexist, simply because this locust plague was defeated using a pathogen made from both human and dinosaur DNA. It would have been infinitely more earned if it explored the world more and the dinosaurs had more relevance to the story. If it got into how people are adjusting and how the dinosaurs benefit the ecosystems, as well as the humans' fear of dinosaurs becoming the dominant species on Earth again, whether or not the fear is rational, and what a government-funded corporation like Biosyn would do to exploit that fear. With this whole new world to dig into, it feels unreal that this is the best way they could have brought the Jurassic story to the acceptance of this new normal. I think a certain sweet old man once put it best.
How can we stand in the light of discovery and not act?
Hear, hear. So, what are your thoughts? You agree with my points? Disagree? What did you think of how the dinosaurs were utilized in this movie? Whatever it be, let me know in the comments, and be sure to stick around for part 3 of my spoiler talk, in which I'll be discussing one of the hardest parts for me to swallow, the retconning of Macy's origin. That's a wrap. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and share, subscribe for more. This is Pop Culture. I'm Alex Pop.